This is the Wednesday, March 20th, 2024 Pembroke Select Board meeting. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone, and welcome. We have a poll hearing to begin tonight. 7 p.m. poll hearing for joint petition of National Grid and Verizon for Washington Street. Install one joint-owned pole on Washington Street. Remove one joint-owned pole on Washington Street. Install underground facilities on Washington Street. Replace pole P107-1 and accompanying riser in the same location as existing. And is there someone here to speak to it this evening?
I certainly hope so. They asked for it.
Okay, I'll allow them a few minutes. We'll come back to that and move on to board action item. We have a joint appointment this evening, the vote and recommendation of the advisory committee for the vacancy of appointment of Jeff McMaster, and we have the chair of advisory, Linda Peterson. Hey, Linda, what's your recommendation?
Good morning. We met 2 weeks ago, and after discussion, the committee's recommendation was that we appoint Jeff McMaster to the vacancy appointment created by the resignation and moving of John Scholl. And Jeff is here if you would like to ask any questions, or he would like to present anything to you before you take the vote.
Great. If you'd like to speak, you can. There's no need, but you can if you'd like.
I think I'm all set.
Thank you.
Looking forward to serving.
Very good, very good. Are there any questions or comments from this board? Is there a motion?
I make
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I make a motion that Jeff McMaster be appointed to the vacancy created on the advisory committee.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor on this board, say aye.
Aye.
And
All those in favor on advisory?
aye.
All right, very good. Well, welcome aboard, sir.
Thank you.
Discussion of possible vote, support and sign letter to the DEP to require Holtec Pilgrim and HDI to monitor and report DEP emissions from evaporated contaminated water continuously and in real time. Steve, I believe this is your baby, is that right?
Yes. This is due to the ongoing decommissioning and dismantling of the Plymouth Pilgrim nuclear reactor. The Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station, now owned by Holtec, was told by the Department of Environmental Protection last year that they were not allowed to dump their radioactive waste into Cape Cod Bay, so they have since begun evaporating it. So the letter, in a nutshell, asks Holtec to install, maintain, and use emission monitoring devices to continuously monitor the radioactive releases from the casks in the air. And it was suggested by Barry Potvin, who's the chair of the Plymouth Board of Health, that it would be very helpful for surrounding towns to send in letters of support for that. And this, the letter basically, it references 310 CMR 7.14, which is existing Code of Massachusetts regulations. So it'd basically be asking the Mass DEP to enforce existing regulations to monitor air quality.
And question, why aren't they doing it now if they are existing regulations? Why do they need a letter to monitor and enforce existing regulations in the conversations that you've had?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've had some correspondence with Anna Lanakis of the Greater Boston Physicians for Social Responsibility, and why they are not, that's a good question.
Yeah,
I can't answer that question.
hopefully this will light a fire underneath their feet to do it. And that's the intent?
That is the intent.
Very good. I'll open up to the board for any questions or comments.
The only thing I would have is it's like anything else, since the nuclear power plant and surrounding towns actually touch Plymouth itself, since we're kind of off a little bit, but still, if anything happened, we would probably be hurting either way. It's just a letter of support for Plymouth because it's in their borders, correct?
Correct.
All right. I'm good.
And I would add for the public, there is the Board of Health meeting, which was on January 4th. So folks can watch that on YouTube if they want to see the Plymouth Board of Health meeting that was recorded by PAC TV. There was some, obviously, discussion by the board. They had some scientists add their input. There was some community input, and so on and so forth as well, if folks want to get up to speed on it.
All right, very good. Is there any further discussion? Is there any action to be taken?
I would move to support and sign the letter to DEP to require Holtec Pilgrim and HDI to monitor and report DEP emissions from evaporated contaminated water continuously and in real time.
Second.
That motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Next on the agenda is to vote and approve the minutes of March 6th, 2024.
I would move to approve the minutes of March 6, 2024.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and I just want to reach out in case the person for the poll hearing has joined us this evening. I didn't notice anyone new coming into the room, but I wanted to reach out. So, Bill, why don't we jump right into your town manager's budget presentation, and if there's, if the person from National Grid and Verizon show up at the opportune moment that you can break, that you feel comfortable with, we'll do that.
Certainly. We can break it any moment.
Well, it's something that makes sense.
Yeah, probably not in the middle of a sentence, So we are here tonight, several department heads and myself. We are going to talk about budgets from the advisory committee, board of assessors, town accountant, town treasurer collector, town clerk, elections and registrations, town manager, select board and special services, otherwise known as DMI, public works, snow and ice, and townwide utilities. One of the way we're going to break this out is I'm going to do an introduction to the department budget. I've asked the department heads to give us a brief overview of what the potential cuts impacts are. Some of them will be more boisterous than others. And some feel, obviously that it's important. I have assured the department heads that we will continue to monitor that, and that so there isn't a gigantic negative impact. The goal of our cuts is not for a huge negative impact. It is to make the cuts necessary for us to get through the fiscal year. And I have assured them that if there is an issue, we will review them at the fall town meeting. But I want them to present to you their thoughts and where they're at with all of that. I would ask, I've structured it in such a way so that we can get through the department budgets for the department heads that are here. I would ask that after each department, if the board has questions, that we ask the questions so the department heads could leave once their portion is completed. They all work very hard. Night meetings are typically not their game. They're my game. I'll be in 3 this week, but they're not their game, and they all work hard and are here early in the morning. Much earlier than I am. So if the board would indulge them, I would certainly appreciate that. So getting into it, we're going to start with the A, Board of Assessors. I'm going to do a brief introduction. This first half is the wages and salaries. The elected official salary is for the elected members of the Board of Assessors. The chief assessor's salary obviously speaks there. All of the other salaries are for the other 3 members of the department. First cut, temporary part-time employee. This is for assistance with revaluation, and this year we're upgrading our software, so there's a big software update. I know that the department has had some concerns, and I'm sure she will share them with you. I would expect her to. About that, we're trying to eliminate those costs, and I'm hoping that we can find another way to make that happen. Obviously, the overtime budget, when I took a look at the overtime budget, and obviously spoke with department heads, we haven't in recent years spent the full $5,000. However, we've spent more than a $2,750 in one of the last 5. So important to note that. The other are contractual obligations, so those are all. So our total wages and salaries of $264,417. These are the other costs, general expenses within the department. You'll note that most are stable. The one, where am I? Let me find my notes here. Hold on. travel and meetings, that will be a trend that you'll see in most of the departments, unless the travel and meetings budget is $400, such as yours. Cutting $400 from the select board simply doesn't make any sense. You don't do anything. Well, I don't know. If you cut the $400, there will be no travel because there'll be no money to pay for it. That was.
Every time I've heard that from the public.
That evaluation's gonna look awesome.
Yeah, thanks. That's not how it was intended. So that is a trend you will see this evening. And then the other cut was from legal costs. They have legal counsel that they do. We haven't spent the full $2,500 in recent years, and if we do get in a situation where we have a major problem with legal costs, we can backfill that from the town's legal budget. So I'm not overly concerned about that one, and I would think that the department head would not be overly concerned about that one either. So total $64,165 for the expense side, with a total assessor's budget of $333,982. I'd like to introduce Jean Gilotti, the chief assessor for the department.
Hi, everybody.
Make sure that's green, Jean. My eyes are bad.
It's green.
Okay.
It's green. Hi. When preparing the budget for the assessor's office, I reached out to all the vendors to get any anticipated increases in costs. Prices are rising everywhere, and most of our vendors determined that there would be increased costs for fiscal year '25. Other expected increases, such as increased cost of paper, envelopes, office supplies, gas for the town vehicle, etc., are also added to the budget. The budget that was submitted had a less than a 1% increase over the budget from 2 years ago. The altered budget is almost 3% lower than the budget from 2 years ago. There were several line items reduced from the submitted budget. Line items for computer supplies, travel and meetings, legal, and engineering were decreased from the requested amounts and even from the amount already allotted for the current fiscal year. The travel and meetings line item is to cover the cost of the chief assessor and the assistant assessor to take the classes needed to maintain their Massachusetts accredited assessor designation. This MAA designation is a requirement for both positions. The line item also enables the other two employees in the office to attend meetings and take the classes needed to obtain their designation. We talked about the legal line item. That is used for our legal representative for all ATB cases, and as Bill has said before, if there happens to be an overage between what we use and what's allotted, the town manager's budget will cover that, so that's fine. Our office will hopefully be able to work in the confines of the lower general expense budget that was approved with the condition that, again, the shortage in legal will be covered by the town manager's legal line item. The amount approved for office wages and salaries is a different story, and I do not believe the office will be able to perform to the accustomed standard if that is the budget that's voted on. Salaries, longevity, professional improvement, and other amounts are contracted and cannot be changed. These numbers are calculated to the exact amount required, and the requested budget reflects that. There are two line items that are not contractual. Both were decreased from the submitted requested budget. The approved line items are actually lower than the amounts approved for the current fiscal year. The line items are overtime and extra help. Overtime is used for data collection purposes only. It enables our office to provide additional inspection appointment times that do not fall within our normal business hours. It also allows for any additional time needed to prepare for building permit inspections that generate growth or cyclical inspections that are a requirement of the Department of Revenue. The approved amount was cut to 55% of the requested amount. In fiscal year '23, the previous chief assessor was retired, and I was hired to replace her at a 22% reduced salary. It is typical for a retired chief assessor to be hired as a consultant to assist her replacement. The current fiscal year extra help line item for $5,000 was for this purpose. In fiscal year '25, our office will be upgrading AssessPro, the program used to assess all real estate and personal property in the town, as the current version is becoming obsolete. I have spoken with several assessors that have already done their conversion, and most have said that it has been challenging to say the least. The previous retired chief assessor is currently assisting another town with their upgrade. She has indispensable first-hand experience with the problems arising from the conversion. Because of this, in anticipation of having similar problems, I requested the extra help line item be increased from $5,000 to $10,000 to assist with any issues that could arise with the upgrade. This is a one-year increase specifically due to the conversion. The requested line item for extra help was instead reduced by 65%, even lower than it currently is. Please keep in mind that AssessPro is the program used to calculate every property in town. The prior owners of AssessPro, Patriot Properties, have sold the company to a large out-of-state entity, and it appears that support is not at the level it has been in the past. It is imperative that the upgrade to the program goes smoothly so there is no impact in our ability to value the town. We need to timely issue the real estate and personal property bills that account for almost 70% of the town's budget. I am asking for the extra help line item to be approved for the original amount of $10,000 that was requested. The $10,000 requested extra help line item and the chief assessor salary combined is still far lower than that of the previous chief assessor salary from 2 years ago. Again, this is a one-year increase to the line item needed to address any challenges due to the upgrade. Obviously, any unused money will go back to the town.
Bill, did you just want to speak to that?
Unfortunately, this is going to be a trend you're going to hear. We don't have the funds available to fund every request that everybody has. We had to make some very difficult decisions. I would recommend that the board create a wish list. I am certainly doing that as I go where I think the most important items are, and that we backfill those as we get closer, and I will make that recommendation prior. I don't anticipate we'll see any additional funding prior to town meeting. Will have to be adjustments that are made in the fall.
I'll open up to the board if you have any questions for Gene or Bill regarding this. All right, hearing none. So I think Bill's right about every department is going to have issues with this year's budget. And what's wanted and what's needed is the balance that we have to create in a budget year like this. So, Gene, what are your most important ones? You've listed them.
The extra help,
Okay.
I can get away with it. I can make it work with everything else. The extra help, I have heard horror stories from other assessors. And if push comes to shove and our Patriot property, the new upgrade isn't working, we are not getting bills out. That's all there is to it. We're not getting bills out. We're not going to be certified by the Department of Revenue, and there goes 70% of the budget.
And so we've had Patriot Properties. We all know if we've looked on the website and searched the assessors maps and so forth. Do they have any competitors in the industry?
They do. And actually, one of their top competitors is Vision. And Vision seems to be going through the exact same thing that Patriot's going through. They can't get people to work. They can't hire people. If they do hire people, they're not the best. And we did think about possibly switching to another vendor, but it was determined that at least we know Patriot. At least we know the program. We know how to use it. If we had to upgrade, if we had to change vendors and the camera system, we would not only be going through all the same problems that we would be going through with the upgrade, but we'd also be learning a brand new system. So that was a double shot. We thought it would be better for us, for at least we understand the program, we know the program, and hopefully it'll be less of a problem.
Just a technical question on that. Well, Patriot's selling and the new company came in. Is the new company's updated, upgraded system a lot better, or is it
There are certain,
tweaked?
the problem is that the version we have right now, a lot of the programs that it runs on, they don't work. So there's different things that the upgrade will allow us to do. It will allow us to continue inputting all of our information for growth. Right now, we have to shut off. So there's a certain time when we set the bills, that's it, we're done inputting. And we can't input for months because those values have to be locked. This new program, the new upgrade, will allow us to keep inputting, and keep a tally, a much cleaner tally, and it'll go much smoother.
I see. And just so we don't keep Gene here much longer, I just want to ask, are there any other questions?
Could we have could you give us a copy of your request so we have it in writing?
Of course, yeah.
I hate to see it just go away tonight, but I'd like to have something on
Yeah, no,
paper.
that's
And,
fine.
as
That's fine.
things progress, we
Yeah.
can maybe bring this back up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, do you want me to email it to who? Everybody, what?
Sabrina, and she'll.
Sabrina
That's
Good
fine.
Clearinghouse
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Bill.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have a letter?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send it.
Great,
No
thank
problem at all. All right, thanks, guys.
Okay, well, actually, the only other thing I have, I apologize, yeah.
That's good, no, that's good.
Is just basically, what does really the upgrade entail coming up? Because I know with other upgrades, other systems, it's different timeframes, you name it,
Yeah.
it can take forever.
So this fiscal year, we have to get a new server. The server we have right now does not meet the requirements of the new upgrade. That's already been approved 2 years ago for the capital plan. So that's all set. And then, once the upgrade is done, it's not gonna be, hope God, it's not gonna be brand new computers, but it's just gonna be a total upgrade of the whole CAMA system.
They're upgrading both the CAMA software and the background data. We currently operates on SQL Server on an older version, and they're
Yeah.
upgrading that to a new version.
And it's supposed to have like the permits, supposed to be upgraded. When it's finally done, people are happy. It's the just getting from A to B that they want to pull their hair out.
Oh, well, this board knows that.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
We start a process and basically when it's done, it's great, but during the
The whole thing, yeah.
Right.
people
And
are
like I said, I've
concerned.
talked to, assessors talk, and the people who have done it during it, like so many said, that's it, I'm out, I'm retiring. But now that when it's finally done, they're like, you know what, it's worth it. It's worth it, fight the fight, but it's gonna be hard. It's a lot of challenges, and again, unfortunately, the Patriot support is not what it was. It's just not. We used to know people by name. You could call up and say, hey, KK, I have a problem, can you fix this? Now it's email support. 4 days later, you might get an email response back. When they finally respond back, most of the time it works, but sometimes it doesn't. And I'm just very concerned that this upgrade is going to kick our butts.
Okay, but is there an estimate timeframe for the upgrade?
I think the problem is that the upgrade itself doesn't take a long time, probably a week.
Okay.
But it's you know how like anything you do, if you only do it certain times of the year, you don't realize there's a problem until you do it? And so if it's something that we're doing, something that's done December 1st, we might not know that there's a problem until December 1st. Because if it's August and we're not thinking about that, and then all of a sudden you come across it, and that's gonna be a problem. And they are offering, our contract for the upgrade does have them giving us a time that they train us, but I think it's 1 day. That's not very helpful.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else while I'm here, before I run out?
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
And Bill, so, as we mentioned a moment ago, we're gonna have similar conversations with a lot of department heads. And so you've built your budget, and the department heads have commented on them and helped you build it, but they have, they've helped you build it, but they also have some pushback against what you have in front of you now. So what is, when there is a pushback from a department head to your proposed budget, how do you anticipate this board reacting? Do we help you develop the budget further? Are you going to revise it?
So I don't know that there's a lot we can do right now. We're not, unless the legislature acts very quickly and they get that and they're not going to, I'm just gonna tell you, we're not gonna know, the big area is state aid, so we're not gonna have any idea what state aid is until July. So we won't know until well after we've appropriated these budgets. What we need to do is we need to identify those areas that are critical, monitor those items. We're not gonna let Kathy fail.
Gee,
I do that all the time. Kill me. I'm sorry, Gene.
I know why you call me Kathy.
Yeah, because Kathy used to sit in the seat. So we're not gonna let Gene fail, okay? That's not my philosophy. If it gets to a point where we need to throw more money at that, I'm gonna go to Linda, and I'm gonna say, Linda, we need more money for this. And then we'll use money from advisory to backfill that, given that we can't backfill $1 million, because we don't have $1 million to backfill. But I don't anticipate we're gonna have critical processes with what we've done. The process was, everybody submitted their ask, we went through and we said, no, we can't, there isn't enough funds to fund the ask for everybody. I went back to them and I said, tell me what could be cut. We took a look at that. In some cases, I agreed 100% with where they were at. In most cases, I asked for 5% because that's the number we needed at that point. Since that time, there's been other things that have changed. The healthcare was clearly not as high as the Mayflower and the county was telling us up front, so there's a substantial savings there and some other things. So it isn't 5% for anybody. Well, that's not entirely true. For most, it's not 5% from their ask, and what I do believe is that we can make it work. We clearly have some concerns, and I clearly have a wish list. If we get, $1 million tomorrow, that we will likely backfill at the fall town meeting. So.
All right, so I guess, in a way, you answered my question this way. The budget proposal that you have before us is the budget. That's what you believe our revenues will support for each department, and you've allocated the money the best way you could to support each department. So we will keep a running list of those wish list items, those HUD items that they need, so that if there's anything that this board could do to help the town manager get to that, we could do that. If there's a policy decision, of course, it's incumbent upon us, but if it's a financial decision that can't be supported through our revenues, we really do have to trust the town manager, town treasurer, and town accountant to manage these budgets. Okay, so I just wanted to, it's essentially, those are the ground rules for us to hear these, so I just wanted to get those out of the way, because I suspect we're going to hear similar stories,
I
right?
hope you do. I mean, that was the guidance I gave the department heads. So I hope you do, because I think it's important for you to know exactly where they think their concerns are. I mean, that's what this is all about. I mean, if I said, don't say a thing, that's not fair.
Yeah.
You're not getting the full story at that point. So I hope they do share that. Some will share more than others, and some will say, okay, we're gonna live with it, and we're gonna make it work. We may not like it, but we're gonna live with it, so.
Right. And so, before we move on to the next department head, I don't mind the fellow from Verizon waiting if he showed up, but are there any
I don't think
residents
so.
or abutters for this poll hearing? All right, I just want to make sure the residents or abutters didn't wait.
Yeah.
All right, very good, so continue, Bill.
Real quick, just one final thing, to clarify something, and so we're not duplicating efforts, et cetera. Obviously, they have their kind of wish list items.
Mm-hmm.
I assume you have a compilation of those wish list items, or
So-
can produce it easily enough, instead of us kind of tracking manually what's the wish list
So
item, missing something
what
here
I
and there.
have I have notes on every budget. I have not taken those notes from the individual budgets and put them on a separate spreadsheet at this point, but it's easily compiled.
Okay. Okay, so we can, at the end of this, we can obviously listen to each one and hear the wish list. We'll get a
So
final kind of wish list.
My anticipation is that you're meeting on 18th or 24th. You meeting on the 18th? No, advisory's meeting on the 18th. On the 24th, where you're voting all of this, we will present the composite budget for you to vote, and then the wish list if
Okay.
funds become available.
All right, very good, continue, Bill.
Hey, next up is treasurer collector's budget. Total request for the department is $498,552. On the clerical salary side, there is a cut of a half position there. That's correct, right? Yeah, I know. The rest of them are contractually obligated for wages and salaries of $414,252. And then on this side, we did cut tax title services, which you will be hearing about from the department head. It's something that absolutely legally isn't necessarily required. It's something you like to do. We don't have a lot of tax title properties, and hopefully we won't, knock on wood. Again, this is going to be it already is, it's flagged on my budget as a concern. And I know that Kathleen has concerns about that. So the rest of the things, there are items where we absolutely had to fund them, or we wouldn't be able to function as a organization. Total on the general expenses side of $84,300 for a total budget, again, of $498,552. And I would like to introduce to you Kathleen McCarthy, our treasurer collector.
Go back one slide.
Sure. Yep.
Hello, how are you?
Do you want to stay there, Steve, or do you want to?
Yeah, if you could
Okay.
stay there,
Yep.
that might.
Okay, so I obviously understand that there's budget restraints this year, and there has been obviously in the past. Our office is extremely frugal. If you've all been there, you know we have not the best stuff in there. But anyway, regardless, just one quick thing I wanted to point out, and like I said, I do understand we have to work within whatever we have, and we will make it work. My budget for expenses on the next slide in 2009 was $80,700. In 2009.
That's way back off the screen.
2009.
2009,
So what you- what-
$80,750.
Just so you know what you're looking at, farthest right is the 25 requests. The next column to the left is the 24 budget, 23 actuals, 23 budget, 22 actuals, 22 budget.
Just so you can see that we have always maintained the lowest cost that we could possibly do in running the office. Cutting the full-time position in the collector's office. Currently, we also do have technically a part-time as well that's open in there. But cutting that obviously is going to have scheduling conflicts with coverage for vacations or any kind of requested time off. We will obviously make it work. The tax title cut, I do have concerns about that. I know I can make it work within that, but land court has been closed for COVID for quite a long time, so they are extremely backed up, and they are just moving forward now. We do have a couple $100,000 in tax title that is moving forward in land court, so that will restrict me on what I can and can't do there. That would be my attorney fees, land court fees, recording instruments, releases, such like that. So that being said, that leaves those outstanding receivables not collected by the town, and then the current tax is also not collected by the town. Once we go to land court, 9 times out of 10 we'll have the resident somehow come forward and end up paying it. Then it gets on the tax rolls and it becomes what our anticipated amount for it to come in. When we don't get that money in, unfortunately our receivables go down, and then we could be even more trouble later. The banking budget line, I'm kind of jumping around, I'm sorry. Right now, the town absorbs the ACH fees for residents to go online and pay any of their bills. So that will be removed, and it will be a charge to the resident as of July 1st. Computer supplies, currently right now, we keep everything in-house unless it's an extremely large purchase, maybe a new laptop or a computer. So this is gonna, right now we cover our maintenance and toner and anything else we can. So that will bring us down to probably just toner. So if there's anything else that happens or a maintenance that we might need, we would have to ask for a transfer for funds to do it. Travel and meetings, there is a staff member in the collector's office that was going to work towards her certification, so she'll have to bump it out another year. That, so you know, is a 3-year process, and then to be licensed by the state. Data processing, there is a significant increase in there, as our company that we use hasn't had an increase, I want to say he said in almost 10 years. So we unfortunately have to do that. And that's really it. But like I said, we'll have to make it work within what's available.
A couple questions. You said under your tax title services that your request was cut.
Yes.
So I'm seeing like in the past with 30, 29, it's 29 again. What was the request?
My actual request this year for tax title was $29,000.
Was 29. Okay, so it wasn't
Yeah.
cut. It was the,
Well, it's
Unless I missed-
That's 24. That's 24, the second line to the left.
It's
And then that's
20,000. We cut $9,000.
That's what Bill had presented with far right. You don't see what I requested. It's not on
oh,
there.
okay, yeah, okay, okay. And then go back one slide. Okay. And,
You see an increase in clerical salaries because I have 2 new staff
Yes.
members that are getting steps. So the steps you'll see.
Yeah,
an
those are
increase for
contractual
them.
obligation.
Yeah.
Even though there's a cut of a partial position there,
Right.
we have a contractual obligation to increase it because.
right, because I
she
see
has-
like the budget pretty much each year is the same, well,
Yeah.
5,000 different, 260, 269, 268, et cetera. It's mostly
She
maintained,
has-
and the actual has been 220, 225.
She had vacancies, in those years. And
Okay.
she has new employees that are at lower steps, so those percentage increases are much larger than you would normally see, because they're stepping through.
And also, we're gonna have more traffic, foot traffic, I'm assuming in the office, when people have to pay to use the online program for billing.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
How effective is your online billing been?
Very effective. That's probably a good reason why we haven't had to fill the back positions. And my staff is amazing. They go above and beyond 150% every day. They'll do anything that we ask. We're all cross-trained. So it's treasurer's office covers the collector's office, vice versa.
Yeah, I use it all the time,
I know,
trash
sorry,
bills
it's gonna
and
cost now.
water bills. It's,
Sorry.
it's like, well, no, don't be sorry, it's easy for me. That's
It
how I
is.
pay all my bills.
It is.
Coming to see your smiling face. so
Yes, I mean-
I'm golden, so.
Do you really think that's gonna create much more foot traffic in the office?
It could.
might.
You would be surprised when there's a fee involved with something.
Don't you pay that gas to come over here?
Yeah, talk to my wife.
And we do have a lot of
She
people
hates
that do
those
come in
fees.
during tax time, and especially excise and trash.
What are the fees? It's different depending on check versus.
It's gonna go to 50 or 70 cents, 75 cents a transaction. When the town pays it, it's at a discount.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Any other, no other questions? Thank you, Kathleen. Bill, one question, general question. So twice now, we've heard that there's an option to go to advisory to ask for funds through advisory. They have a reserve fund. What is the value in that reserve fund? For some reason, I have $80,000 in.
75. We
75.
were programming, you are correct, Mr. Chair, we were programming at 80, but it's one of the cuts. So it's
The reserve fund is cut.
$75,000.
The one everyone's relying on, awesome. Oh, boy.
It's been
Backup
there
plan is a
before too,
backup plan.
Dan. Base 75. When I was on advisory, we were at 75 also. And I think it went down.
It
then
went
put
down
back
some,
up.
and now I've tried to bring it up 5,000 a year, but
Okay, so just wanted to know, so if, it's for the board to know for sure, but for the public, this talk of, we'll visit advisory and with hat in hand and see if we can backfill the money that wasn't funded at town meeting, there's only a finite amount there.
Right.
And
And
that finite
not-
amount is
not-
75,000.
not everyone will have to do that. But we will use what we have to at the fall town meeting when we know where our final numbers are from state aid, and then the reserve if we are forced to do so.
And the similar question to back funding through other funds. It was mentioned earlier that there's some funds that might be able to be culled out of the select board town manager's budget and inserted into another budget. Is that
Only.
fair accounting?
It is fair accounting in the sense where we were talking about legal, because our budget is for legal. So we can spend legal
That's
money
clarification, that's
on
an
legal.
important clarification.
Otherwise, you would have to wait till year end and do the 3% transfer.
All right, very good. What's next on the agenda, Bill?
So the town accountant, Michael's here. Contractual up above, Michael has agreed not to do vacation buyback. Thank you, Michael. And we are cutting the computer maintenance line. It is a concern of mine since we were looking to do some work with that, but in a year where you have to make budget cuts, you have to make budget cuts. So total budget request at 225,493, and Mike Buckley is here to discuss it if you have questions.
Hi, Mike.
How's it going?
Good.
So not much to say, not a lot of moving parts. One full-time person, one part-time person, and we'll make it work.
I'll ask you the age-old question. Has Pembroke grown enough to necessitate a full-time accountant?
I don't think so, and that's because of the people we have working here. But, and I'm sort of mystified that I go to some town halls, there's 3 or 4 full-time people in the town accountant's office. I have no idea why. I should.
You're
I
that
think-
productive.
Well, no, it's not me, that's my point. I'm only here 2 days a week. It's the people, it's Kristen who works for me. She's been doing this for a long time. It's Kathleen's office, it's Jeannie's office. We all work together, we all get things done. I don't think if you have the right environment and the right organization, you need that. So
Okay.
that's just my personal philosophy. So.
Great. I have no other opinion on it other than people ask me, so I ask you
Okay.
for your opinion.
I actually have an opinion if you'd let me share.
Sure.
When I came here, I was horrified. I went, oh my God, I only get to see my accountant 2 days a week. But I will say, as Michael said, with the staff we have, it works. I'm scared to death if and when we start to lose staff, whether someone else will be able to come in and do what they do today. So it's something for us to consider and make sure when we do our long-term strategic planning. I'm certainly thinking about it in which direction we go. Make sure they have the training necessary to backfill those positions. I think Kristen does a remarkable job. She's the assistant. And, you know, I think she can backfill that position where we go beyond Kristen when Michael decides to leave, which he's not allowed to leave until I go. Will be a challenge for us. I just want to share that, so.
Very good. Are there any questions from the board?
I can't help myself now. There is a brain drain in finance, municipal finance.
Yeah.
And you're, not with my department, but with the other two departments, you're running the risk of cutting them or making changes to the degree you're going to start losing people. So they can't say that, they're not going to say that, but that's what happens. I know Marshfield, Duxbury, they pay better, they have openings. So that kind of thing, if you keep taking away the consulting, the overtime, the data collection, that kind of thing, people can't take vacations, you're gonna lose them. So you just have to be aware of that.
Good point. Thank you.
Okay. Right.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, Bill, continue, please.
So, just a final comment, those are the three, what I call the triad of finance, town accountant, treasurer collector, and assessors. They are critical to our operations. I wish there was a way not to cut them. When we looked at the budgets, there just isn't, unfortunately. But we need to, as an organization, make sure, as Michael just alluded to, that we are supporting them. And have a long-term strategic plan to make that work as we move forward. And there will be a day, it's likely not for 2 years, when we're not where we're at today budget-wise. And we need to make sure that we're supporting those folks at that point. So, thank you, everyone, I appreciate it. Thank you for your honesty. I know the board appreciates that also. So, moving forward, we're gonna go to the Department of Public Works. There are going to be some significant changes in Public Works over the next year. Our department head is going to be retiring. Is that a secret? It's not anymore. It's not anymore. We are working aggressively to make sure we mentor staff that we feel are very, very strong candidates for this position so that we can have a seamless transition. One thing that I have done in my career is if you have a solid employee who is a hard worker, who is a great communicator, who has the education necessary to backfill the position, if that employee has a deficiency in a certain area, you mentor the hell out of that deficiency to make that guy your gal, I call everybody guys, make that person your candidate for that position because you know what you got, and sometimes you can hire, as we've seen, you can hire somebody from the outside world and it's not the person you thought it was. So in that light, I'm going to go through the budget real quick and point out some stuff, but then I'm going to introduce some folks to you. So Public Works. You can see that the director's salary is going down. You typically wouldn't pay a new director. Actually, we're going to have a change in all of this too because we're changing. The director's paid partially from water and partially here. This budget will cycle through at the fall town meeting, and we'll see some changes. And fortunately, the town manager act allows me to make line item changes within the budget, and you will see that at the fall town meeting. Overall budget is probably going to be good, but you'll see changes in individual lines. So As we go down through here, one thing I want to point out is full-time salaries. There is going to be a vacancy. There is an individual who's transferring to water. We're likely to leave a vacancy there when Jean retires, and we're going to actually have another retirement also. We will backfill those positions so that when we absolutely need them, we'll be able to fill them. So, other than that, these are all contractual obligations on this line. The only other thing I want to point out is the temporary staff. We implemented this a couple of years ago. We have a lot of DPW staff that obviously have the right to have vacation, and a lot of them are senior staff and have a lot of vacation. We implemented a temporary staff line item that would allow us to do certain things when those folks are gone. There are times a year where we have a very small staff. It has allowed us to do some stuff. We've done some sidewalk clearing in the summer months, cut back of brush and some other things. Unfortunately, we had to cut that this year. So we won't have that ability to do some of that extra work. We'll be back to where we were a couple of years ago. Hopefully, we're able to bring that back as we transition through this flat budget time. So, did that move? Yeah, there it goes. Here are your other budget numbers. These are pretty flat. We think that for the most part we'll be able to do that. We have a couple of minor cuts, but we've worked aggressively with the department head, and we can believe very strongly that we can absorb these. I want to thank Jean. Jean did a remarkable job in the budget season this year. Not that everybody else didn't, but Jean has a large budget, as you can see, multi-pages, and so that we could understand exactly where he felt we were able to cut the budget. So, and then the final, I just want to note that there are actually two budgets on this slide because of the way we separate them, but here for a total DPW budget of $1,462,976. You'll note that the total public works budget down below is actually 1.6. That's because we actually separate the snow and ice into a separate budget, but I include it on the slide because they manage it. So the snow and ice budget is remaining flat. I'm not likely to increase this. Season towns generally don't unless they see a multi-year trend of huge increases. We haven't, and we likely won't. So there's some statutory obligations if you do change it and increase it and don't spend to that limit. You're not allowed under the statute to deficit spend, so we never want to get into that situation with snow and ice. Every single community in the Commonwealth uses this as a tool within their budgeting practices. So at this point, I am happy to introduce Jean Fomini, our current DPW director, and someone we are mentoring for promotion within the department, Joe Diuti. Joe has a strong education, huge experience within the public works arena and the town of Pembroke. Joe is actually currently the first what's the title, Joe, for Plymouth County? First vice president for the Plymouth County Public Works Association. So his peers see in him the same things that we do. One thing we saw was that Joe, we wanted Joe to work on was public meetings. That's why Joe is here tonight. Joe has worked incredibly hard studying through, getting up to speed on finance. He has been beside Jean the entire budget production season and working through the budgets. I have 100% confidence in his abilities to do that. So I'm happy to introduce to you Joe and Jean.
Come on up, guys. Hi, Joe. Well, the budget's accurate. Is there any other comments that you had for us?
No, I said from the beginning, this is my 18th or 19th budget cycle. Been through the cuts before. Been through zero pay raises for everybody. DPW general expenses, we actually increased a little bit. But I said from the beginning, there's really nothing else to cut out of expenses. Next move is personnel. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to send the crews out to do anything. You won't be able to have fuel, gas. I mean, it's a bare minimum now. So luckily, it's going to work out with my retirement, another retirement coming up. Like you said, we had to cut the temporary help for the summer. Hopefully, you get that back. But we've got a succession plan. Probably going to be down a management position, so probably fiscal 27 when things turn around with new growth and everything, and hopefully that's when they can move forward with trying to increase some of these general expenses.
Okay.
Okay, Joe, here's your opportunity. Tell us what you got.
Joseph Diuti. I've been with the town for, since 2007. I've come back from a background of construction, paving, general construction. I'm with the crew. Started as a CDL classification and skilled labor driver. I eventually moved up to heavy equipment operator, and currently am now highway tree foreman. I oversee 10 guys. We work with cemetery department, water department as well. I work well with the police department, fire department. I have great communication skills with them. A good rapport with everybody, I believe. And I got a good work ethic.
Very good. Any questions for Joe?
I don't know if it would be for Joe. Equipment upgrades, do we dig deep into that as far as going forward? Are you satisfied with the number that we have for equipment upgrades?
Heavy equipment upgrades or general upgrades?
I think it was general upgrades. I think it was on the last slide.
Hang on, let's get there.
Bill, what are you
Do
looking
we have
at?
aging equipment we should be
So
worried about?
we have pretty good, we've done a pretty good job with DPW equipment. We do have a couple of aging pieces, but they're on our capital plan in future years when they get to the end of their useful life. So I'm confident that our equipment supports the staff.
It is.
You can speak to it if you
No,
want.
it is, it is. We have a very good fleet now, a couple of vehicles that are over 15, 20 years old that need replacement. But currently, our mechanic we have now has been able to keep it up and running. We have confidence in him as well. A lot of the equipment now, we have to send out for oil analysis. We can't do that in shop. A couple of the trucks, if you lose an engine, one of those things, they're like $50,000. So that's why we send them out to the dealership and have it done properly.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one. It could be for you or
Yeah, sure.
Gene, either way. For the, I said mostly it goes for temporary staff or stuff that needs to be going on for outside work. Have we, and I know I've talked to Gene about this before in the past, have we contacted Joe McDonald's office, the sheriff's office, for help? Because I know they've helped
We
out
have.
in other areas.
We have in the past, yeah.
Wonderful.
And we could try that this
Yeah,
year too.
they're not doing a ton of the outside stuff. They're doing a lot of, they're really focusing on the interior. If you look at the work that, when the police chief comes,
Police
ask him
station,
about
yeah.
that, because the work they did at the police station after we had the leak over there was unbelievable. I mean, it was top-notch work.
I think the last time we had them,
was
it did
basically
cost the
free.
town a little bit of money.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's great about it.
Like, we just bought them lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're not focusing on those outside projects as much anymore, so, you know.
Because I know they've done it in the past, and
Yeah.
I know that the sheriff has been always receptive to helping us out. So.
Yeah,
Yeah, they helped us with the weeds and the sidewalks on 53 and 139.
that was 2 years ago.
So,
Yeah.
So
Great.
who are we utilizing for temporary staff then?
we're not, we didn't, we
Well,
just
who
put.
were we
Who
in
were,
the
we
past?
were using contract
Just
staff, temporary staff, yeah. So that would get some of that work done, so, and it worked out well where we did it, so, pleased about that. Tough to hire somebody.
And it's just
you
in
know.
the summers typically?
It's typically just the summers,
Yeah.
yeah, we haven't used them anywhere else, so, other than snow and ice, which is
Right.
a completely different animal, so, you know. So,
Very good.
thank you, Joe, don't get mad at
Thank
me,
you.
you did a wonderful job.
Caught me off guard, Bill.
It's part of the process. I'm very pleased. So that concludes the folks that are here tonight for discussions. If you guys want to stay, you can. If not, thank you very much. Everyone did a great job.
Thank you, everyone. Do you have any further budget
Yeah,
presentations, Bill?
we've got a bunch. The rest are all me. I will run through them quickly, just so that we can get them done. And if anybody has questions, please just shoot them at me.
Yeah, let's try to have the questions at the end of a segment.
Yeah, yep, that's fine. So the next budgets are actually your budget and the town manager's budget. We have a bylaw that we pay the select board, that dollar a day that you, less than $1 a day a month or whatever it is. It's not a ton of money, so I'm not reducing that. I don't think that would be appropriate. Assistant town manager salary is going up. We are actually cutting the clerical salaries. That doesn't mean that my executive assistant is getting a cut. What it means is that that person that I was going to hire as a grant writer is a part-time position now, and likely will struggle to fill that, to be honest. The rest of the salary items are contractual. And then we have dues for you folks, advertising for liquor licenses or any other advertising we have. That $400 that I alluded to earlier that I'm not cutting because if I do, you don't travel anywhere. Where are we? What's the next line item there? The printing, obviously that's for printing in the town report. And then eyewear reimbursements is a contractual obligation, actually not for your budget or my budget, but we manage it so that we can control it. It's a contractual obligation in one of our collective bargaining agreements. So, pond treatments are in there. I'm glad Kathleen left because Kathleen does part of the management of this, and we're going to struggle a little bit, but we have no choice but to cut it. It's one of those things that we think we can do it. We've encumbered funds from prior years, and we're going to be able to accomplish that task. The consulting line, we hire consultants to do various items during the year. And then, of course, the audit is going up. We contacted the auditor about that. One thing we were able to save is the OPEB study. They said because we did it at the end of last year with encumbered funds, we don't necessarily have to do it this year. We're not going to. We're going to save the $9,000. We're legally within the rights to do that, and we'll be fine. We will do an OPEB study next year. For town manager, the next line, salary, travel stipend, those are contractual. Vacation buyback again. And then the dues for ICMA went up, the dues for MMA went up. ICMA is somewhat flat. Office supplies, travel and meetings I reduced as we did for everybody else. So that is select board and town manager. If you have any questions.
I just have one.
Sure, which slide?
For the previous slide, for
Okay.
the advertising cost for liquor licenses.
Yeah.
That advertising cost, is that part of the liquor license fee? So that
Well-
it's really being paid through the applicant?
It's a pass-through. It's not 100% because some of those are not part of a license. Some of the advertising is not part of a license. When we have, like, for example, when we have to advertise, we're advertising for a new roof at the police station right now. That comes out of that budget.
I
So-
mean specifically for a liquor
Yeah,
license?
no, it's a pass-through.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
The pond treatment, was it dropped by 5,000, is that what it was?
5,000, correct.
So
Yep.
blind.
Yep.
When the watershed has a grant that's supposed to be coming in at
So
some
I
point,
will-
so that would
so
actually help with that.
We're actually working, I'm actually going to be talking to the town of Hanson to see what their financial situation is, because some of that we share with Hanson on Oldham Pond, and I'm gonna work with the watershed to see what we can do.
Well, Pembroke Watershed Association was awarded a grant that we're still waiting on. That actually, they touched base with me today about that. That should be coming in soon.
Okay, you hope.
I hope,
I got-
supposedly.
I got word through the governor's office, well, not actually through DOR, that they're doing another round of cuts on grants, so
Well, even if they cut it, at least if it was something.
there'll be something.
And it would be
Yeah,
nice if it was enough to just,
the information was, it looks like another one of those 50% cuts,
right,
so,
that would still be enough to cover that.
yeah, it would add the 5,000 back if they're willing to do that. I don't control those funds,
I
so.
know.
Any other questions here? Okay, moving on real quick, inspection services, otherwise known as Department of Municipal Inspections. Wages and salaries are somewhat flat, just contractual. Those are for non-building inspector types and non-clerical types. So I won't get into specific names, but if you want to know at some point, I can tell you exactly who they are. But they're non-building inspector, non-clerical. Building inspectors are the next line. We did a salary survey on our building inspectors and as part of a couple of new hires and found that we were significantly below, so we've been forced to make that increase there. Clerical salaries, this is a result of steps. There's nothing else in there. We have a two employees that are still going through the step process on this. So part-time, it is what it is. We did cut that a little bit because we haven't used it. We didn't use it at all in '23. However, there may be some part-time issues that come up there that we may need to do that. No overtime lines. Longevity is contractual. Professional improvement contractual, and performance pay is contractual for a total salary line of $529,800. On the maintenance, this one, I will be honest with you. We had the maintenance, software maintenance at $12,500. In the last week, I was forced to change that because similar to the situation that I won't say Kathy, I will say Gene is going through where a company bought out their software company. We had to purchase of our building permit software company by a nationwide company, and they've increased our annual fee to $16,000. So we're not going to go without that software. That software saves the town substantially where people can file for building permits online. And we actually use the online service even if someone comes in and files within a department. We use the same software product. So office size and everything else is flat within this budget for a total budget of $532,863. Any requests or comments or questions on inspectional services? Nope. Okay. Moving on, advisory. Sorry, Linda. Just like everybody else. Oh, I did leave it in at 80. I apologize to the board. I didn't cut it. I should have cut it. No. So I have been preaching for years that our reserve fund is way too low. Our reserve fund should be 3 times where our reserve fund is as a best practice. We can't get there, we can't afford to get there, but we do need to continue to move in that direction. As I've said many times to this board and others as I've done presentations to, if we have a major catastrophe in town, $80,000 isn't going to cover that cost. We will be forced to, your board, to call a special town meeting, have an emergency special town meeting to fund through any funds we have available, whether it's a stabilization fund or free cash, to fund that project, or debt. I mean, we could borrow potentially to do that. So not good. So I was going to cut it and then didn't at the last minute because I said, you know what, it doesn't make sense to cut it. We need to strategically show our bond rating agencies that we are indeed following in what we said we were going to do. So other than that, clerical salaries, we did cut that, but we haven't had that expense. If you look at from 21 through 23, we haven't been close to the 6,000. So we can absorb that. Other than that, office supplies I cut. Again, you know, they may have a need for office supplies if we have something happen with a special town meeting or something, but right now it's not. So I felt comfortable cutting that. Where I didn't cut, because I know dues is actually going up for this group, is I actually increased the dues to $300. So total budget with the reserve fund of $85,550 with a department budget or a committee budget of $5,750. Any questions?
So where do you get the idea that it should be triple that, based on what?
So it's a municipal best practice that it should be a percentage of your general fund budget. We're just not there.
And is that where we're at right now? I know that so it's a best practice, that's good, we should aim towards the best practice, but is that number affecting our bond rating?
It isn't today, as long as we continue to follow our financial management principles and our long-term plan and increase this slightly till we get there.
Okay.
It won't, this does not concern me about our bond rating. Some trends in our expenses of one-time funds absolutely concern me about our bond rating. We need to make sure that we're comfortable with that they're comfortable with that. And I'm hoping that when we go out to borrow, that I can convince them that, hey, we are still solid financially right now today, as long as we don't go crazy and spend a ton of those one-time funds. We are in a solid position. We won't be a AAA community, but we will be a AA stable when we do our next bond rating, provided we follow a solid financial management plan and our principles. It's similar to the pension funding and the OPEB funding. You know, we have this huge pension liability, but as long as we continue that trend and pay that, same thing with OPEB, and we have a long-term plan that will get us there, and the bond rating agencies recognize that.
Obviously, we're not close to the AAA bond rating, but at what kind of trajectory are we at moving towards that AAA bond rating?
So if we stay on these plans, and the economy and the local economy and the state aid recovers, I mean, we could get there. I mean, we're going to have to throw some more money at certain things, but we could get there. We won't get to AAA likely very quickly, but it's got to be a long-term plan. You know, we'll go AA plus and then AAA minus, and you know.
Like what is that? Are you talking 5 years?
10 years.
10 years?
Yep. Yep. Now, there's a lot that could happen in that 10 years that could influence
There's
that.
a lot of qualifiers.
The
there.
goal would absolutely be, it needs to be for us, because that's where all of our financial planning is, that we stay at a AA at this point. we cannot take steps that cost us our current AA stable rating, because that will increase our costs as we move forward with our debt structure.
And how will, once we achieve that AAA bond rating, how will that, what kind of discount will we get on
So,
interest rates? And
so
things
there,
like that?
in really, really good years, like if you look back 6 years ago, there wasn't a significant difference between a AAA and a AA, because the interest rates were so low, there couldn't be. If you think about it, we borrowed for the community center at 1.8%, so there isn't a lot of flex in that spring there. However, in tough times, you remember back in the 2008, 2009 range, where we had that huge dip in the economy, there was a 1 to 1.5% difference. If you think about that, as I've said to several committees, over the next 5 years, we're projected to borrow $75 million. If you have a 1% difference, your first year debt is $750,000, folks. And that's over the length of that debt. So a lot of that debt is 25-year debt. Okay, that'll be declining over the term of that debt, but that's a bigger number than you can imagine. So we need to absolutely work hard to maintain our AA.
Maintain the AA and drive towards the AAA to weather
Yep.
those storms better in the future,
Mhm.
when you have those economic dips.
Yep.
That interest rate discount will become huge.
Exactly.
Okay, no, that's excellent, thank you, Bill.
So any other questions on advisory? Moving on to town clerk. Unfortunately, the town clerk is not able to be here. She will likely be here at a future meeting if you want to ask specific questions. Her budget is challenging. It's a federal presidential election year. There's no cuts you can make from the town clerk's budget. We don't have a choice. What are we going to do, tell the Commonwealth and the federal government, oh, we're not having elections? It's not possible. And in those years where it is a federal election, you have all of those new requirements from the Commonwealth with mail-in voting, early voting requirements. So this budget's actually one of very, very few budgets other than our fixed cost budgets, which are our healthcare and pension, that it's actually going up. So happy to go through those details if anybody has specific questions about lines, but it is that 4-year trend that we see in the town clerk budget, and the next 2 slides are elections and registrations. So,
Could you pause there, Bill?
sure.
Just for the board and the public's knowledge, what does a single election cost?
Depends on the election. When we're looking at a federal election, that is upwards of $30,000 to $50,000. The local elections are much lower than that. They're in the $10,000 to $15,000 range.
Thank you.
Well, that's before the police officers at each poll and
Right, well,
too, so
Yeah,
there's add-ons.
Yeah, there's add-ons to that. So I'd have to go through and calculate it, but the election cost itself is.
And there'll be savings when we have them in one location.
There actually won't. There will be in some sense that you won't have to have as much staff, but there won't be savings in police detail because every precinct will still require an officer under the state statute.
Wait, so we'll still need to have an officer at each precinct, even though we won't be using the precinct for the purposes of?
You'll have the office.
Just the guy
you'll
with the
have-
ballot box.
So you'll have 5 officers
Yep.
at the community center.
Oh, one for each precinct, so they
They're
need
all
to have
voting.
5?
Yeah, 6 now.
But
6
don't
officers.
forget, they take the ballot box in custody
Yeah,
from the
'cause of-
polling place to
yeah,
town
3A.
hall.
3A.
So they have to.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean,
There's no practical, that's a law requirement,
Yeah.
even though they'll,
it is the security of the ballots.
thank you.
All right, any questions along this? I'm happy to go back and go through detail if you want. Nope, okay. Last, is it the last? Nope, we got 2 more. So facility maintenance, this is for all staff for our facilities, all custodians. And the general expenses are generally for the municipal complex, which means this building. There's a couple of other things like telephones, which are shared, and postage, which is shared amongst all departments. But the rest of the supplies are for this building and staff. Now, the custodial staff is for all of our buildings. So here, police department, library, this 25 will be the new community center. And then obviously overtime is for times where you need to have staff in place when you have something going on. Longevity is contractual, and vacation buyback are contractual. So any questions here? There are, looks like it's going up, but one of the challenges we have here is the postage costs. You can see that increase in the budget, a huge percentage of that is the postage costs and then the telephone and wireless, because we're combining. We used to have telephone and wireless. Every single department in this town had a different telephone system. When we are done, we will have all departments within the municipal complex on one phone system. So the police department, town hall, community center, which is rec, council on aging, and the library will all be on one, and fire department will all be on one phone system. Right now, all of those departments, no, not right now. We've already started this, so 4 of those departments are already on one phone system. When we're done, the rest will be on one phone system.
Stay on that just a moment, Bill.
Sure.
Just explain to us how you differentiate between facility maintenance and what's needed for facilities that are covered in the capital budget.
So facility maintenance are those maintenance items like toilet paper cleaning, the custodial staff to do that work. I don't know why postage is here, it's a Pembroke thing. It's fine, it's gotta go somewhere. I mean, postage is a facility cost for this building and all departments use that. And then vehicle fuel for that department to make sure they can run to get whatever they need in a particular day. Capital is for the replacement of items, specific pieces of equipment. So that truck that we're using, or a floor maintenance machine, or a carpet machine, for example, a vacuum cleaner, those would be capital items. These are your maintenance items. Okay. Any other questions here? All right, and then the final one is just the electrical costs. I will be honest, we are working through this. This is very, very challenging. And one thing that scares the hell out of me is National Grid filed for a mid-year increase. That public hearing is out there, so if you want to make a comment, feel free. It came in this last week, and they updated it this week. So it's not very common for a utility to file for a mid-year increase, and it plays havoc with municipal budgeting. When you don't see it coming, there's no way to plan for it. So that is it, unless anybody has questions or comments on anything we discussed tonight. The rest of the departments will be before you on the 10th. The enterprise funds will be before you on the 24th. We had planned to have the enterprise funds here on the 10th also. Unfortunately, one of our biggest people in enterprise, Dan Sullivan, our water superintendent, is going to be out of town on the 10th. So I told him he could come, and we'll do that. Those are very small in comparison to the overall picture, and they're not general fund, so pretty easy to accomplish.
Very good. Are there any final questions from the board?
Yeah, the only thing I'd have would be basically back on utilities, brought up National Grid increase possibly. Well, we have an agreement with them, a 2-year agreement, so.
No.
No, we don't.
We did.
Municipal municipal
Aggregation
aggregation only.
is the supply, not the distribution.
Okay.
National Grid is the distribution.
Well, since they're part of the same thing, but
You can't make a
supplier, I'm just like, whoa.
So supply, we're good.
There's separate.
Distribution, we're not. You
Yeah.
cannot do a
'Cause I know-
multi-year plan.
I know
with
that question would
distribution.
come up.
Yeah, no, it's aggregate.
No, that's good.
That's
Yeah.
Good
That's the
clarification for
supply side.
everybody.
Yep.
That's the reason
Thank
why
you,
I want to
John.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's the first question
there are a
I'll ask.
lot of times people on this board ask a question they already know the answer to, so that's one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything else? So the public has heard all these tonight. Are there any questions before we move on? Okay, very good. So thank you, Bill. That was the town manager's presentation. Do you have anything under the town manager's
Sure.
report tonight
I
to add?
just have one thing I wanted to make sure the board is aware of, and I know you're aware of it, but I want to remind you. Representative Kathleen Archer's coming in for your next meeting. It would be great if you can think of some questions to ask her. And also on our warrant this year are 2 home rule petitions that have to go to the legislature. We should probably inform her of that also. So if you can assemble questions, send them in to Sabrina or myself, or even have them ready to ask Kathy that night. We always try to make it a courtesy to give them the questions, if we have questions in front, so they can have some focus point, especially if it's a question that's not something that she would be expecting, where she'd have to do a little research.
Okay, very good. I'll just reach out in the room. Has someone from National Grid or Verizon come in this evening? They have not. I haven't seen anyone. There are any abutters here for that. There are none. I would like to go back to this item on the agenda. That was the original 7 PM poll hearing. And it's up to the board, but I would encourage the board to consider discussing this evening, even though there's no representation from Verizon or National Grid before us. This is swapping one pole out for another pole in the identical location. There is no taking of land. There are no new easements on this. Is that correct, Bill?
That is correct. And the legal requirement is the pole has to be within 3 feet of the existing pole.
Right, so this is as straightforward as it gets. And National Grid and Verizon, if you've ever worked with them in the construction industry, they move very slow. And they felt a need that this pole needs to be replaced. So for the convenience and safety of the public in Pembroke, I think we should consider discussing this and possibly voting on it this evening. And I'll take discussion on it now.
I agree. Works for me.
Yeah, it works for me too. I mean, if they determine that this needs to be done, I mean, it'd be nice to see them just to answer any kind of questions from the public, but it seems
I'll
as
make sure I
straight.
express your displeasure.
As just a kind of a public thing, you know what I mean? I feel like it's
Yeah,
good for
I
that.
would actually, Mr. Chair, if I may, if there were members of the public that were here for public comment for this, I would recommend the board don't approve it, but since there is
But
no
there's
one,
not,
they
yeah.
were all notified.
I'm just not happy with the assumption that there wouldn't be anyone here,
Yeah,
you know?
right.
But I agree that, you know, I think it makes sense because it's as simple as it gets for the sake of the public, et cetera, to move it forward.
Right, even if there were no abutters present, but there was an easement, a new easement to be discussed. They're literally swapping out one pole for another. So, if there's no further comment, is there any action to be taken?
I would move to grant approval to National Grid and Verizon on their joint petition, also known as Plan Number 30703943, to install one JO pole on Washington Street, move one, is it joint owner?
Joint owner.
Joint owner pole on Washington Street, beginning at a point approximately 50 feet north of the center line of the intersection of Washington Street and Reservoir Road, and continuing approximately 30 feet in a southeast direction. Install underground facilities on Washington Street, replace pole P107-1 and accompanying riser in the same location as existing.
Second.
Motion made second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, very good. Are there any liaison updates this evening?
Mine are more announcements, sir, so I don't know which way to go.
You could bring it up
Okay.
under this.
Well, actually, I want to thank Brian Leach from the DOR and Rep. Kathy Lanatcher for her lunch and learn yesterday for the senior circuit breaker for the seniors. It was a great turnout for a lot of good questions, and these people are very astute. I mean, I looked at basically
Brian's awesome.
what they were doing, and I felt so stupid in front of the seniors because they were asking great questions. So it was good there. And then Bridges in Pembroke, the memory care place, they just got accredited for dementia and Alzheimer's services, the 12th in the Commonwealth. I was there yesterday also, and it's wonderful to have them in this community and see what they actually do.
Very good. Are there any other liaison updates this evening? Hearing none, moving down to old business. So I asked this board if they would consider discussing a letter to the Speaker of the House. And I have to confess that much like tax time is for accountants, they're busy time and they have no time. I happen to be in this vortex of busy time at my construction site. This building that I'm working on is very, very complicated and all-encompassing on me right now, so it's an excuse. I didn't write it. If you want to wait till next week, I'll try to put the time in. And it's really not going to be anything other than, geez, we're upset that you didn't have an election. Here's the reasons why it would have benefited the town in this district. So there's nothing earth-shattering there. It's not going to change the speaker's mind, but it'd be nice for him to hear that his decision affected this town. It's really nothing more than that.
Right, And I'm just happy overall that, speaking to other representatives around the South Shore, they're willing to chip in and help us out during this time for budget season for the House. So they said
Okay.
anything we need, give us a call, and including our rep, Kathy Lenatra.
Yeah, and if it were time pressing, or if there was a chance that I could have, a letter could have changed his mind, I would have made it a higher priority. So, so just forgive me for being 2 meetings late now.
Forgive you.
All right. Is there anything else under old business? Any new business? Are there any announcements this evening?
Yes, sir. I just want to let people know that the American Legion Post 143 is having their Tuskegee Airman Howard Carter in here. It's more, I think, more of a meet and greet because he hasn't been doing well in the past couple of weeks, but he still said he wants to come and meet people and talk a little bit. But to let people know that it's Town Hall, Veterans Hall here, 6 p.m. instead of 5, 6 p.m. on 3/28.
Okay.
So if you can be here, great. It should be a fun event of just, seeing someone who basically lived through World War II and could discuss on basically his actions as being a Tuskegee Airman. So hope you can make it.
I have
Very
a few
good.
as well.
I'm gonna have to
Okay.
jump out of another meeting. I have a
The library asked me to share a few events that they're having coming up. One is a teen puzzle race, that's on March 26th,
Oh, yeah.
an Irish musician and folklorist on March 28th,
No.
and there's an author presentation on April 10th. You can go on their website to find any further information. April 20th, we'll be still hosting our community cleanup day. There's more information on Facebook. Emails will come home about that. April 20th is also the library book and bake sale. May 5th is fish fry. If you didn't already save that date, please do so. I know there was one other thing. There's a Friends of the Community Center group that has started. Did we share that at all?
We haven't shared it in this meeting.
No, so Friends of the Community Center group that began, I know that they met once, maybe a couple of weeks
Twice.
ago.
Twice now.
Okay, sorry. Their next meeting is April 8th at 6, and they're planning on meeting at the Council on Aging. If anyone is interested, just show up.
They, if they haven't, they've started a Facebook page.
Yep.
So you probably see it kicking around the community Facebook sites. So if you're interested, noodle around. And it's, just to expand on it a little bit, Tracy, the Friends of the Community Center are a group of just that, Friends of the Community Center that are not affiliated with any town governmental agency. They're a private group, but open to the public to join. So they're, anything they could do to help with scholarships of folks that are need to go on a field trip or a camp trip, that are having trouble paying for the children, something to that effect. Anything they can do to help. It's akin to the Friends of the Library. So they're a fun group, and they know that the group that's there that started has been very interested in the community center, getting it built and constructed, but they really do want to reach out for new people, new ideas. So it's not it's not a clique of one they don't want to be a clique of one group. They want everyone anyone that wants to help in any way that they can. So that's who they're reaching out for.
Right, they've really been reaching out for new people to join. And I feel like they're, kind of like the Friends of the Library, their fundraising is going to be their main purpose,
Right.
to maybe support the budget there. And speaking of that, there's also, if everybody remembers, many years ago when we were trying to build a skate park, the Friends of the Pembroke Skate Park is restarting efforts to investigate the possibility of maybe having that skate park built, maybe. If anybody is interested in hearing more, you can reach out to me. There's no set meeting coming up anytime soon. We just met initially to kind of figure out where we were funding-wise. But if you're interested in maybe joining that, let me know. I'll be happy to keep you in the loop. Thank you.
All right, very good. If there are no further announcements, I'll move on to community comment from this board. Are there any this evening? I'll reach out to the public. Is there any community comment this evening? Hearing none? Oh, sorry, come on right up.
Just in response to the recommendation. So thank you all so much. I'm Katrina, town resident. I just had an idea for when they were talking about the seasonal work for the DPW, if there's any way we can work with the school to have an internship. since it's in the summer, I don't know if they're.
They
can't be.
typically are not of the legal age to operate the equipment.
Okay, so they couldn't eat, okay, got it, all right, then never mind. Unless
There
there
is,
was an 18-year-old senior.
there is, didn't we talk about or put as one of the goals or possible discussions about internships
Yes.
for students?
I'm absolutely, if there were funds available, we would be starting an internship. In my previous locations, have had very successful internships with some, both at the college level and the high school level. We just don't have the funds because college level internships aren't free. High school, maybe if they're doing it for community service, but you typically get a very limited time scope with a high school student as opposed to a college student who's doing a true internship. So.
Just an idea, I didn't know if it would be helpful.
We certainly are, in that light, so the board knows I'm going to steal Lance Kennedy's thunder on this a little bit. We certainly are looking at both the senior work program and the veterans work program for work with, helping us out, save some money at the community center, manning desks during events during the evenings. So definitely something where we want to go.
And then the only other thing I was wondering about was just, I know you were talking about kind of what the role of the board is in terms of policy and things for the budget, but I wasn't sure if there was a way to have a criteria as we're thinking about what we're going to backfill first for the funds, the wish list. Like, do we assess the legality of the, different pieces? Are we looking at a certain set of criteria as you go through what you're going to fund first?
Yeah, I certainly have my criteria, which I can share with the board either now or at a future meeting, your choice. If it's something that is, I'll give you a very quick, high-level, 40,000 foot.
Thank you.
Emergency, we fund it. If it's going to cause an emergency or loss, I'll give you the perfect example that I cited, what you were at that meeting. So, original cuts where we were going to cut some staffing at the fire department because of cuts, and I said, I can't accept that. It just would not work. What would have happened is we would have had to cut all the training, so all the AED training, all the CPR training, all the training that we do at our schools, all the training we do for staff and the public, which we do a ton of. Our fire department guys are awesome about that. We would have lost that. We likely would have had to take a third ambulance off the road at certain times, which means we would have had to either call staff in on overtime or go for mutual aid. If I'm having a heart attack in my office upstairs because someone scared the hell out of me, I'll be dead by the time the third ambulance gets here. So that is not acceptable to me. So that was certainly a priority for us. We put that in the budget. Those items that cost the town more money need to be put in the budget. With our cuts, we tried to look at areas where, yes, there's an impact, but we wanted to minimize that impact, and we also wanted to look at areas where we could attempt to assist. I'll give you the example. DPW, huge cuts, but I know that with Joe and the mentoring that we're doing, that we're going to be okay. I know that I will have to help him along the way, but I'm a former DPW director. I'm a former assessor. I'm a former business manager, former assistant town manager, former town manager. I know I can help him do that, so it doesn't scare me. There are areas that scare me where I can't help people because I don't have that experience or that knowledge.
You can't do CPR on yourself anyways.
So those are kind of the priorities. If we can backfill it from somewhere else, the legal with assessing, we minimize that. I don't think they're going to have a problem. They do such a good job that they don't get a ton of that legal cost. Some towns have assessing legal costs that are greater than your real town legal costs because the assessor's office isn't as strong as ours. So they miss the values, and then they're in court, trying to defend those values where you still have legal costs associated with that. So we are a very good community. We have incredibly dedicated staff, so I know we'll get through it. There will be some heartburn and some challenges to us, but we will, and I'm willing to share in a little more detail what my matrix is on what we're looking at. I'm meeting with the superintendent. I've asked for meetings, and she will. We've been meeting on a regular basis over the last 3 weeks. Next week to go over some of the school's concerns. The school committee had some questions from last night. We can absolutely address a lot of those. I'm super excited that where they're coming and asking for things that we can address as opposed to saying, we need you to do this. one-time funds. They've got a number of things that happened to them this year that are one-time funds that they're now throwing numbers at me that I can absolutely backfill and help the schools. I'm super excited about that, so we'll be doing that. Those are examples of things where, as we grow through this budget process and get closer to town meeting, we'll have a solid plan on where to go.
Right, the role of this board is to assess the proposed budget by the town manager, and if he has a trepidation or he has two competing priorities, we could try to help guide him with our experience and our knowledge, but we do have to rely on him as the financial professional, along with the other team of the folks that spoke here tonight. But one of our greater roles is once this board has agreed on the budget presented to us, we vote on it. And then, once we voted on it, we have agreed with it, and it is our duty to stand up at town meeting and propose that to town meeting and express to the town meeting voting members why we believe this is the budget for the town, and everything we can do to advocate for it once we've agreed to it. So it's our duty to advocate for the budget, and if folks at town meeting have questions that are technical, a line item, they can talk to Bill. If they have questions that are a policy or political, they can talk to us.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
Great.
For explaining that there. Thank you.
All right, very good. If there's no further public comment from anyone, we have a couple of things at the bottom of our agenda for upcoming issues. April 10th at 7 p.m., we have Representative Kathy Lenatre, April 10th as well, presentation on departmental budgets. Again, the 10th, final budget presentations, routine article recommendations. April 24th, final article recommendations. April 24th as well, all final warrants are signed. April 30th, all warrants will post. May 14th is annual town meeting. May 18th is annual town election. If there's no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone. Good evening.